The soundtrack to the film Lisztomania, an LP I bought from the vintage vinyl sale at the Front Room Cafe in Castle Street, High Wycombe. Lisztomania is a film directed by Ken Russell starring Roger Daltry as Franz Liszt. It has a soundtrack produced and arranged by Rick Wakeman, using themes originally written by Liszt and Richard Wagner. Franz Liszt was a famous 19th century composer and piano virtuoso. His music was very much in the Romantic style. I would recommend his Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2, the piece that he is almost certainly most famous for. It is one of the most exuberant and bouncy pieces of music ever written. Franz Liszt is known for the heavy hammering of the keys on big chords, super fast trills, and the elaborate flourishes that go the whole length of the keyboard. But there are also simple, subtle melodies, such as his other well-known piece, Der Liebestraum, meaning the love dream. I actually bought a CD of his piano pieces so I could get an idea of Wakeman's source material. As with much classical music, I found at least one tune worth stealing. The whole 19th century classical repertoire is an excellent resource for public domain musical ideas. The film is like a rock star biopic or a collection of excessive MTV videos. It is also a bawdy sex romp, sort of Carry On Franz Liszt, or Confessions of a World Champion Pianist. I was still a teenager when I saw the film. I was a fan of The Who, and I had liked the Tommy film which Ken Russell also produced. In fact, I was interested in all things Ken Russell. I had seen the Monty Python Ken Russell parody that starts with the cry of "Anyone for tennis" and ends in a bloodbath. At the time I found Lisztomania both funny and entertaining. Some people rank it as one of the worst films ever. I have since seen it as an adult, and it has not aged well. It has also made it so that I always imagine Wagner, who was actually Liszt's son-in-law, as a cross between Hitler and Frankenstein's monster. If Ken Russell was one of the most over-the-top film directors ever, then Rick Wakeman has to be one of the most over-the-top rock musicians. King Arthur on Ice being a prime example. As a cape-wearing, outspoken, larger-than-life prog rock keyboard player, either with the band Yes or solo, he was very much the Franz Liszt of the 70s. Rick Wakeman turns many of the Liszt and Wagner themes into mid-70s Moog synthesizer-led prog fests. He also played the part of Thor in the film. The music is made entertaining by its ludicrousness. It is not so much classical meets rock as it is classical and rock blitzed together in a blender with the lid left off. The music gives you those rubato-charged climaxes that only romantic classical music can, even with a bit of Fender bass and offbeat snare. Sometimes in place of the synth we actually get real strings. It is in places intentionally amusing, like the opening track that has chopsticks played like a 19th century piano concerto, that sounds like a Bill Bailey parody. The Liszt and Wagner pieces that have been beefed up with rock instrumentation at least have more artistic merit than those hooked on classics monstrosities we had back in the day. The song that works best is the one sung by Paul Nicholas, credited to Liszt with lyrics by Wakeman and Russell. Nicholas played the part of Wagner in the film. A lyrical version of Liszt's Liebestraum No. 3 should have been something very special, such is the excellence of the melody. It appears on the soundtrack as Love's Dream, with lyrics written by Roger Daltry. The problem is that Daltry was not the right singer for the song, and I say that as a Who fan. It would much better suit a real musical theatre voice. The final song, based on a similar theme to Love's Dream, actually suits Roger Daltry much better, especially as it reaches a gospel-like climax. To quote the sleeve notes, France had all the creative talent to back up all the flashiness. He was a heavy dude in the eyes of the critics and his fellow composers, like Richard Wagner for instance. He had great chops on his axe, the acoustic piano. Forget those dry, dreary history books you had to read in school. The 19th century was a very hip century. Lisztomania, Wakeman and Roger Daltry.